Hello there, everybody. Hola a todos, and welcome to this Spanish GCSE and iGCSE video tutorial. So in this particular tutorial, we are looking at the listening exam for Spanish GCSE and iGCSE, and I'm going to give some tips and some value for all of the listening exam. So this should be very useful for all students. My name, firstly, is Dhananjay Talwar, and I studied French and Italian for my MA degree at the University of Cambridge. I graduated back in 2015, a while ago now, and I have been an educator since that time, mainly as a full time tutor. I'm really passionate about languages, a real hobby of mine, and I've learned more than 20 of them to different levels, which includes at least 9 to fluency, one of which is Spanish, of course, which I picked up outside school largely before practicing considerably with others. It's something I love to do and will probably always continue to enjoy doing. And I also love making sure my students are aware of the benefits of learning languages and giving them techniques to learn languages well and efficiently, but while having a lot of fun as well. Um, and I have helped more than 500 different students to achieve or exceed their target grade for GCSE or IGCSE exams for different languages so far as a full time tutor. I've taught 8 languages up till now for GCSE and iGCSE, and several of those at higher levels as well. So here are the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE exam boards. So these are correct as of August 2025. There are 4 exam boards for GCSE Spanish and 2 for iGCSE Spanish. There are differences from exam board to exam board. It's definitely useful to be aware of those differences as well and aware of exactly what the format will be for your exams. But the good thing is that this video is relevant for everybody, regardless of your exam board, because we're looking at the listening exam as a whole. So, before we look at specific tips and how to approach the listening paper overall, these are some of the most common question types that can come up in listening exams for Spanish GCSE and iGCSE. These are common questions across all of those exam boards that we saw earlier. Of course, there are slight variations from exam board to exam board, but these ones commonly do tend to come up for essentially all of them. And those include gap fill questions, matching up questions, multiple choice questions, questions asking you to identify the correct statements, questions where you've got to answer in English, questions where you have to answer in Spanish, and at the bottom there, all on its own, the dictation task. Now, the dictation task is quite new. It's only for AQA and Pearson at Excel GCSE for language GCSE exams from 2026 onwards. And I have a separate video done on that specifically for the dictation task. So if that is part of your exams, then I highly recommend watching that video. For all of the other question types mentioned above, from gap fill questions down to answering in Spanish, I have a separate video which takes you through all of the most common listening exam question types, all of those that are listed here, those 6, one by one, and details the exam technique required, and how you can answer these kinds of questions as well as possible. So, what actually is the listening exam? How does that work? It's obviously a timed written paper. You would have to write your answers into the exam paper. The questions are often multiple choice. Most of them will be in most listening exams. They can require short written answers, though, in English or Spanish. So definitely do not be surprised by that. Particularly as you get towards the end of the listening paper, you tend to see more often questions come up where they require answers in English or in Spanish. Those answers should not be hugely substantial, though. It shouldn't be longer than a sentence that is required for each one of those answers at most. And all of the questions, of course, are based on an audio that the student is going to hear exactly twice. So as a student, you would hear everything within the audio exactly 2 times, apart from the dictation task. The dictation task, which is only there for some students, just those which will take certain exam boards, AQA and Pearson at Excel GCSE. Everything within the dictation task will be heard 3 times. So you'll hear every sentence of the dictation pronounced 3 times. Otherwise, you hear everything twice. And once you know how many times you are going to hear everything, it's important to be aware of that and to be able to use that to your benefit as much as possible. So, these are my top tips for the listening exam. The first thing is to read through the instructions for every question thoroughly. Many students, especially if they're feeling flustered or nervous on the day, might be tempted to skip through the instructions or just skim read them and go straight onto the questions. Of course, try not to do that. It's really important to read through the instructions as fully as possible. You have to understand what each question requires from you, what they're asking you to do, and how, above all, you can score the marks. Because that is the whole purpose of these papers for the students. So don't neglect that. Don't read through the instructions as quickly as possible. Take a bit of time to understand them, and I try and get through the instructions for every question, and even have a look at the question and all of the options available as well before the audio for that question has even started, ideally. Try and familiarize yourself too with the technique needed for each of the question types. All of these question types are different, so they have different technique. The exam technique, the way of approaching them, even potentially the things to listen out for as you hear the audio. All of those can change a little bit for different types of questions. There are some that very commonly come up, and I do cover all of those one by one, as mentioned individually in a separate video. So definitely watch through that separate video as well. Learn topic-specific vocabulary. Sometimes students are tempted to skip some topic areas and just focus on the topics they think may come up. That's very risky business, though. I would definitely make sure you revise all the topic areas and try and revise key vocabulary for all of them, because you don't know exactly which ones are going to come up in your listening or say reading papers. Exam technique, that's in capitals because it's so important, really can make a huge difference. That's not unique to the listening exam. That applies for all of these papers. But the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE exams are not just about knowing Spanish well. Definitely the language side is, of course, one part of it, as it should be. But exam technique hugely contributes to a student's final grade as well. So make sure you familiarize yourself with the required exam technique for all of the papers and all of those question types. Okay, a few more tips that should be useful for the listening exam. So try and practice understanding the Spanish accent as spoken by natives, because you're not going to hear non-native speakers or say English people trying to pronounce Spanish words in your audio in the listening exam. Everything in the audio will be pronounced with native accents by natives, and some familiarity with different Spanish accents could be useful as well. I don't think you need to worry about obscure or much harder accents where the pronunciation can differ somewhat, such as the Argentinian accent. The accents that you hear in the audio will generally be more standardized. And of course, everything will be slowed down somewhat. It won't be at full speed. But definitely understanding the Spanish accent and practicing that as spoken by native speakers can really benefit you. Listen out for synonyms as well. That's something that commonly occurs. You may not hear the answer exactly as it's written on your exam paper. You may hear a synonym used instead, or you may hear a reworking of that. So you may hear something that's essentially paraphrasing the answer. So don't think that just because you don't hear an exact word which is written on your exam paper in the audio, that means that is necessarily not the right answer or incorrect, because you could hear it expressed in a different way instead. You do get to hear everything in the audio twice or 3 times for the dictation task, so try and make the most of this. And there are several strategies that you can employ to make the most of it. I'll go through some of those a bit later on in the video as well. But sometimes students will listen out for the gist, so try and understand the general message that's being communicated the first time they hear the audio, and then listen out for details the second time. I wouldn't personally do it that way, but it can work well for some students. Other students might try and identify as many answers as they can the first time, and then just listen out for the ones that they're missing or the ones that they're less sure about the second time they hear the audio. That can be a good strategy. What you can also do is potentially mark rough answers the first time you hear the audio, and then only confirm those or write them as a kind of final answers after hearing the audio the second time. And that is something I would potentially recommend as well. Time management is very important. For the listening paper, your time management is largely dictated by the audio itself. So you have to stick to the time indicated by the audio and follow that. But there should be time to check through everything at the end, and that's really vital that you make the most of that. Um, you can try and check as you go as well. Remember that once a question is done, you're not going to be able to hear the audio for that question again. But you can check back quickly over a question once you've just finished it to make sure that you've included everything you need to include. You haven't left anything out. Always have a go as well, especially if it's a multiple choice type question. Don't leave anything blank because that way you've got no chance of guessing the right answer. It's always worth having a go. And practice in exam conditions using past paper materials as well. So, use past paper materials. There should be some available on the website of your exam board, and try and mimic the real thing as much as possible. So, practice, especially as you get closer to the real thing, without being able to look words up and without being able to go over the allotted allocated time. Right. So exam technique is a big theme of all of this. And we're going to look in a bit more detail at parts of exam technique that students can often find difficult. So make sure that you read through every question and the possible answers as well fully. So I would not just read the instructions. I would try and read all of the possible options that you have to choose from, to choose between, ideally before the audio for that particular question has even started. That means that you know what to listen out for and you have some preparation before the audio even begins. Check through your work thoroughly after completing the question. That's really important. So, ideally, you could glance back over each question just after you've completed it, just to make sure that you haven't made any glaring errors or left out any important pieces of information, for instance, or left blanks. And once you've done everything in the paper, once you've completed all the questions, I would go back over everything and check through as much as you can. Although, of course, you will not be able to hear the audios again because you only get to hear the audio twice, and that will be consecutively, one after another. So try and make the most of that. And there are various strategies available, various ways to tackle that. You can listen out for the gist, so try and grab the general message the first time, and then listen out for more specific details the second time you hear the audio. That is a bit risky, I would say. Most students will not follow that, but I know it can work well for certain students. You could also write in a non-confirmed answer the first time, and then write in your final answers only after you've heard the audio the second time. That is what I would also recommend doing, because, well, if you write in a confirmed answer the first time, you may then have to change that after hearing the audio the second time and changing your opinion about what the answer is. I would only write in a final answer after hearing the audio once if you're really sure that that is the correct answer and you don't think you could realistically change it at all. Check how many marks are available for every question, because that's a really good guide as to how much you've got to write and how many details to provide as well. You always answer in the same language that the question itself is written in. That is the general rule to follow. There shouldn't be any doubt about which language to use, though, because that should be indicated clearly in the exam paper. And lastly, do not leave a question blank. That's certainly still an important piece of advice, particularly for multiple choice questions. I feel it's really bad to leave a question out because you've still got a reasonable chance of guessing the answer correctly. But even for any questions, even if you have to answer in English or Spanish, I would always have a go, always hazard a guess, as long as you've got the time to be able to write out that answer, because otherwise, you've got no chance of getting it correct. If you have a guess, you've still got some possibility of scoring marks. Okay, now there's a quick quiz to test your understanding of the Spanish GCSE or iGCSE listening paper. Question number 1 is all about exam technique. So how significant is exam technique for the listening exam? Let me give a few seconds. Okay, here is the answer. So this is certainly not unique to the listening paper. This is true for all the Spanish GCSE and iGCSE papers generally, but exam technique can make a real difference to a student's marks, and that goes for the vast majority of students, really. So understanding the techniques required for every question type can be very helpful, and those vary from question type to question type. The videos here should really help with that. Question 2 is true or false. You will never have to write out an answer in your listening exam. Is that one correct or not? Okay, that should be enough time. So let me show the answer then. This one's false. Not every question in your listening paper is multiple choice or requires the student to tick boxes. Generally, the majority of them do, but certainly not necessarily all of them. You could well be asked to write out an answer in English or Spanish as well. And number three, true or false again, you'll hear all of the audios in the listening exam except for the dictation task exactly twice. What do you think about that? Have a think. Okay, let me show the answer for this one as well. This one is true. The only exception, of course, being the dictation task, where, as mentioned, you're going to hear everything in the audio exactly 3 times. And number four, why is it useful to get used to hearing the authentic Spanish accent? Of course, there's a wide range of Spanish accents out there. Yeah, because it's spoken in so many different places and countries around the world. But particularly the most standard or common Spanish accents from Spain, and also more standard accents in Central and Latin America, it's definitely useful to hear those. So try and think about why that is. And here comes the answer. That is because the accent used in the audios for the listening exam will be an authentic Spanish accent as spoken by some native speaker. So hearing it again and again can really help to know how to identify words and coordinate symbols and sounds. So, if you have questions about any of that material, or if you'd like to know more about more personalized help, which I do offer too, you can get in touch by email, through Facebook, or through Instagram. And I post on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well every day, actually, with sharing my passion for languages with people, hopefully helping people to learn more and more languages and encouraging them to do so, and also providing a lot of methods as to how to do that while having lots of fun as well. I do post about language exams for GCSE and iGCSE a lot too, including how to create a revision plan, how to go in with the right mindset, and more. So I recommend following me on each of these platforms. I have many resources, including free resources available for Spanish, GCSE, and iGCSE, and other languages. And I do one-to-one classes, group classes, courses, and plenty of other help. So don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to know more about any of this.